sometimes a show, when it goes into season 2, they do make some changes, right? They retool a little bit. They might bring in some new characters. But I've never known the producers to completely change the plot line. Welcome to day 20 of the Karen Read retrial. And something very interesting happened yesterday with Dr. Wolf. Not that Dr. Wolf. This is Not Hot Dr. Wolf. Not Hot Dr. Wolf is a brain surgeon from Miami. He seemed credentialed, has experience. He apparently does a lot of brain surgeries and then also still finds time to make coffee for his wife. So he seems like a perfectly decent guy. But last year, in the first trial, we heard the testimony of Dr. Stonebridge. She actually works for the medical examiner's office in the state of Massachusetts. And just between these two, can you guess which one of these has examined John O'Keefe's brain? The Commonwealth has been telling us for 3 years that Karen Read murdered John with the vehicle. And last year, Trooper Paul tried to get up there and give us this grandiose story about how it happened, how he got the injuries, how he, flew through the sky and landed on his head and lost his shoe. And they've made such a big deal out of the car was going this fast and this is the reason and all of this, right? But when Not Hot Dr. Wolf testifies, he says, well, it's the laceration on the back of the head. That's what incapacitated him. And by the way, that's nothing new. We've all known that. Alan Jackson even said this in his opening statement. We've all known all along that that head injury came from John falling and hitting his head on something. The question is, what caused him or who caused him to fall and hit his head? They've always stuck with the fact that the arm was hit by the taillight. Like the arm came in contact with the taillight. That's what cracked the taillight. And then the scraggly parts from the taillight were what scratched the shit out of his arm. That's their story. They're sticking to it. But I guess what they're going to do now with Not Hot's testimony is now they can say, well, here's what happened. The Lexus didn't come in contact with the torso. There's no bruises on the body. What happened was that she charged at him. John saw her coming. He tried to get out of the way. His arm went up like this, reactionary. It hit him in the corner of the arm. And very much like Trooper Paul said, it kind of spun him around. He had a shoe that was untied. It became loose as he was trying to stumble away and jump out of the way of her charging vehicle. He tripped over the burb and he fell and he hit his head. But what that does is that then helps lock in that manslaughter piece. The first jury wasn't willing to convict her of murder, but they were hung on the manslaughter charge. So what this does is this sets the stage for saying, well, at the very least, here's all this data that shows her intent. And she charged at him, and the head injury came from him trying to run away from her. I don't know if this means that Hank has sort of given up on the murder thing. Like maybe he can't prove murder. I don't know what he's trying to do. The next witness was Christina Hanley, and she comes from the Massachusetts State Crime Lab. And she's been responsible for investigating the glass. A couple things about the glass before we get too far. Remember, John is seen in the waterfall video walking out with a cocktail glass in his hands. We all know he walked out of the bar with a glass. Now, this glass was found around a little after 7 in the morning on January 29th by Lieutenant Gallagher, who had the leaf blower out. Remember, he had the leaf blower, and we saw video of him finding the glass. But of course, this was probably a good 30 to 45 minutes after John's body was already removed. So in the videos, you can't tell where the glass was found in proximity to the body. They're all just like, well, it's the general vicinity. You don't really know how close it was. But we do know that the Canton PD believed that this glass played an important part, because when Yuri Buchanan called the medical examiner's office at 10:41 that morning, he told them it looked like John had been hit in the face with a cocktail glass, because that's what Yuri got from the Canton police. So that's why it was so important for them to find as many pieces of glass as possible, because they believed that it was somehow used to harm John. Now, the glass on the bumper is the biggest fucking joke. I mean, there's a lot of fucking jokes in this case, but the glass on the bumper, we're supposed to believe some pebbles of glass lasted sitting on a bumper, driving 60 miles in a blowing wind blizzard. It gets confusing when they're referring to things by the evidence number, like 3-2 and 7-14. You get really confused. So Alan Jackson's like, let's simplify this shit. You have a cup. You have 5 pieces of glass, A, B, C, D, E, that were found on the bumper. You have 9 pieces of glass that were found by Yuri Buchanan, allegedly at 34 Fairview. And then you have a piece of glass that was found by Michael Proctor, allegedly at 34 Fairview. So it's when you start to try and match it up, because Christina Hanley's job is to see, like, if we found all this glass, shouldn't we be able to put this thing, reassemble this glass? So when they look at the glass that's on the bumper, like, you just look at these first 2 pieces. They didn't match the cup, they didn't match anything Buchanan brought in, and they didn't match anything Proctor brought in. Feels like this is random glass sitting on the bumper. Yuri Buchanan's glass, he brought in 9 pieces. 6 of them matched the cup. The 3 of them didn't match these other 3 didn't match the cup. And we already know that none of these matched Yuri's glass. So again, we don't know where the bumper glass came from. Proctor brought in 1 piece of glass, and his glass doesn't match either the cup or Yuri Buchanan's glass. But look at here. There was 1 piece of glass on the bumper that happened to match the glass that Proctor brought in. Sunny day, isn't that fantastic? Makes me wonder if some of that glass that didn't match anything came from a drinking glass from within the Albert home that someone else was drinking out of, right? If they swept up all the glass, was there somebody else's glass, broken glass, that got mixed in with it?